Hello YouTube world, my name is Nicholas Montez and you're watching my YouTube channel, The Teenage Movie Critic. And welcome back to my YouTube channel, everybody. I'm so excited to have y'all back here together again. And in today's video, we're going to do another list. Today is June 30th. If it's possibly July 1st by the time I'm posting this, then I don't know. It is June 30th and it is the midpoint of the year. But not only is it the midpoint of the year, but it's also the midpoint of the decade, since we have 5 years left of this decade with 2025, 2026, 2027, 2028, and 2029. So that's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. No, wait. 2030 doesn't count. So we have 5 years left of this decade. And so I thought, what better way to celebrate the midpoint of the decade and talk about my top five favorite movies of this past decade. Now, before we get started with the main list, I think it's clear that since it's been a pretty great decade so far for movies, well, somewhat, I thought we would go ahead and talk about some honorable mentions, since there's a lot of great movies that came out this decade, so I thought I would mention some of them. First one up, we have Mitchell's vs. the Machines. Just a solid film. This would have been my top 5, but some other films came in and kind of missed it, but still a fantastic animated film, and I will probably be reviewing it next year. Then we have Spider-Man No Way Home, which of course was a great theatrical experience and easily one of my favorite movie theater experiences to go see. And let's hope that Deadpool and Wolverine keeps up with that. Then we have Killers of the Flower Moon, just an overall great long film that's directed by such an older director. Such a great film. I need to rewatch it though. Then we have Bad Boys for Life. I mentioned this film because not only was it a great return for the Bad Boys franchise and mixing in action and great chemistry between these two actors, but also including new characters and having an emotional story there. It also was the film that opened up the decade of 2020 movies, as this movie came out in January of 2020 and everybody loved it. And I didn't see it when it first came out, but I saw it during COVID and I absolutely loved it. And I'm like, wow, the fact that this one was the one to open up the decade for movies, it was great. And then the final one on here for honorable mentions is Blue Beetle. This was one that I just loved. I just thought it was a great film. It just takes everything that I love about comic book movies, with like what they do with Spider-Man or what they did with Ms. Marvel, and kind of combined it with the Hispanic culture. At the same time, having awesome action. It's funny, it's entertaining. At the same time, also having some heart, kind of like what No Way Home did. But no, I think this one's probably better. So yeah, that's my thoughts on. That's my honorable mentions. Now let's move on to my top 5 favorite films of the decade. And for me, Raya and the Last Dragon was just one of the best Disney movies that I have ever seen since really like Zootopia. I have just never really seen this good of a Disney film. Maybe it's just because it gives me a lot of Lion King vibes. I just love the characters. I also just really love the way the story was executed and how much emotion that's put into it. It also just has some really solid action. The animation is gorgeous. But I really just connected to the story and these characters. And so I think Disney just made a real classic with this one, even though people have forgotten about it over time and they're just going and watching Encanto. This is a great Disney animated film. So this is a Steven Spielberg film, basically about himself. And I wanted to watch this for a while because I heard about it, but I didn't pay attention when it first came out. And I'm like, oh, so this is the film where Steven Spielberg basically just made a movie about himself. And that's an excellent idea. And the way that the film was done and the performances and the story, granted, I'm not as related to this film because I grew up with newer movies than older films, and I kind of want to get into older movies in the future. But this was just an overall great film. I need to rewatch it though, because I kind of forgot about it because I've only seen it 3 months ago, so there will be a review for it this upcoming November for its 1-year anniversary, for its 2-year anniversary actually. So, but it is still one of my favorite films this past decade. And Civil War, yes, I know it is a film that came out this past year, but I don't care. It is my list, so shut up. But yeah, Civil War was a film that I was kind of anticipating because I'm like, this could either go wrong or bad, and I thought it was absolutely great where it did, like, how do you do a Civil War film in the present day where you got present day soldiers and all of that stuff and mix it in with the 24th century stuff and the 21st century stuff, and I just thought it was absolutely fantastic where it's a different perception on war where instead of it being in the perspective of the soldiers, it's in the perspective of the photographers and who takes the pictures of these images. And I love how the film is projected by images and you're seen by that, and it's just such a cool film at the same time having exciting little action set pieces, but at the same time it's also possibly one of the most scariest war films where me personally, I never thought I would actually get scared by Jesse Plemons killing some people from Hong Kong. And if you know that scene, if you remember that scene, you know what I'm talking about. If you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. Just an overall pleasant experience, great performances, and yeah, this will be in one of my favorite movies of all time. I love Civil War. Now, Inside Out 2, yeah, it's another film from this past year, but once again, I don't care. It's my list. I just personally love this movie, and what's so great about it is that it was truly the best Pixar film in years, where most Pixar films the past decade have just been good. This one came out and it was absolutely great, where they continued the themes from the first movie in such an excellent way of dealing with growing up, your friends moving on, and learning to grow up and getting anxiety, new emotions, and bottling up your emotions, and the way they all captured that, from using the characters to the entertaining stuff, but also the way they visualized anxiety and what would happen when you get it. It's such a powerful thing to accomplish, and plus the animation is great, the comedy is great, the score is great. I love this movie, and it's easily one of the best Pixar films in years. And yeah, an MCU film is my favorite film of this decade, and if Inside Out 2 was the best Pixar film in years, I would say Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 was the best MCU film in years, where this movie does such a great job of balancing all the entertaining stuff and spectacle with all the funny moments between the characters, all the entertaining stuff, all the great action, but at the same time telling a story that is simple enough to have all these great character moments, but also build out all these different character arcs, and even with making that big moment to happen, not in the middle, but at the very beginning, it helps it a lot to where you get the story with Rocket, you also hate the villain, you love the characters' journeys that they go on, and it makes sense for an emotional story to where you don't have to kill them off. And it just makes it for such a great film. It's so hard to talk about this film because there's just so much to talk about. That's what, and honestly, it's like, the biggest shame of this movie is that it got overshadowed by Spider-Verse last year. And I kind of hate that because I feel like that this movie should be loved more. This one left a more impact on me than Across the Spider-Verse did. I don't know if it's... Now, granted, I love Spider-Man more than Guardians, so I should feel differently about that, but Spider-Man just kind of felt too much and also left on a cliffhanger, so it's kind of hard to think about it, but Guardians 3 is my favorite film of this decade. It's definitely one of the best movies I've ever seen in a long time, and I will never get over it. I love this movie. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.